Petra. Its monumental temple-like tombs soar over 100 feet tall. And these wonders of engineering are not constructed, they're carved.
The crazy part about the new discovery at Petra is not just how it was built, but who actually did it. When Dr. Sarah Chen scanned the 6 massive columns, she found mathematical curves that are accurate to within thousandths of an inch. These columns were carved by hand into a vertical cliff, but they show no signs of human error at all.
And then we back away and we realize not only is this building unique and fantastic, but it has been carved into the sheer face of living rock.
It is like the builders had a level of technology that vanished overnight. We are looking at a construction method that defies logic and suggests that our ancestors knew secrets we have completely forgotten. The impossible scan results. The world was recently shocked by news from the southern desert of Jordan, where the ancient city of Petra stands. The entrance to this place is a stunning structure carved directly out of a solid red sandstone cliff that stands over 140 feet tall. For centuries, people looked at this facade and saw beauty, but engineers now see a mathematical nightmare. In 2025, a research team led by Dr. Sarah Chen from the MIT Archaeological Engineering Lab finished the most complex scan ever done on the treasury. They used lasers to map every single surface with sub-millimeter precision and used electron microscopes to look at the tool marks left behind. What they found broke every assumption we ever had about how ancient people built things. The Nabateans achieved a level of precision that is only comparable to modern machine-polished granite, but they supposedly did it with bronze chisels and simple sand. The team measured mathematical curves that stayed accurate within millimeters across a cliff face that is nearly 131 feet high. They did all this without laser levels or any modern surveying equipment. But here is the catch. The scan showed that the very oldest parts of the building had the highest quality of work. As time went on, the work actually got worse and more rough. That is not how humans usually learn skills. Normally, a civilization starts with simple designs and gets better as they practice over hundreds of years. At Petra, they started at the absolute peak of perfection and then slowly lost their touch. It is like the master builder showed up, did the impossible, and then disappeared, leaving everyone else to try and copy them poorly. This subtractive architecture is a terrifying concept when you really think about it. Most buildings are made by putting blocks together. If you mess up a block, you just throw it away and get a new one. But at Petra, every single inch was cut out of the living rock. One wrong strike with a hammer and you have permanently removed stone that can never be replaced. The margin for error across this massive face was essentially zero. Dr. James Morrison, a structural engineer who worked on the 2025 team, said it very clearly when he saw the numbers. He said, "We cannot do this today with hand tools, not with this level of perfection. The math simply does not work for a human being with a chisel." The scale of the work is also mind-blowing. To create just the treasury facade, workers had to remove about 282,000 cubic feet of solid sandstone. That is roughly 20,000 tons of rock that had to be carved away. They did this from the top down, which means they were working high up on a vertical wall while trying to get rid of all that heavy debris. They had to keep their tools sharp and their measurements perfect while hanging in the air. The old explanation was that they were just very patient and spent decades grinding the stone with sand. But the new data from 2025 destroys that idea completely because the surfaces are too smooth and the angles are too sharp for random hand grinding. One shot at perfection. When you look at the treasury of Petra, you are looking at a masterpiece of zero-tolerance engineering. Building with stone blocks is very forgiving, because the structure is made of separate pieces that can be adjusted. But carving from a mountain offers no mercy at all. Every chisel strike is a permanent choice. If a worker cut too deep into one of those 39-foot columns, the whole thing would look crooked forever. If they miscalculated the angle of the top section, every other measurement below it would be ruined. The treasury is not just a building, it is a giant sculpture where the workers had exactly one chance to get every single cut right. And remember, they were working from the top down, so they could not even see the whole picture until they were almost finished. Dr. Morrison used computer simulations to see what would happen if a modern team tried this. He found that if a carving team made even tiny errors every 100 strokes, the whole building would look lopsided. Human beings are not perfect, and our hands naturally shake or slip over time. But the treasury shows no signs of these human slips at all. Whatever method they used either prevented mistakes from happening or fixed them in a way that we cannot see even with our best lasers. The laser scan mapped over 100 million data points to create a digital model of the site. The findings show that the flat surfaces rarely vary by more than a few thousandths of an inch from a perfect geometric plane. For work done by hand on a cliff, that is not just impressive, it is totally unexplained. The crazy part is the 6 Corinthian columns that stand at the front. Each one is 39 feet tall and about 4 feet wide at the base. These columns feature something called entasis, which is a very subtle curve where the column bulges slightly in the middle. Ancient architects did this to stop an optical illusion that makes straight columns look like they are bowing inward. To do this correctly, you need to use very complex math and make sure the curve is the same on all 4 sides of the column at the same time. Today, we would use a giant lathe to turn the stone and get that curve perfect. But the Nabateans carved these directly into the wall of a mountain. Dr. Chen's team measured these curves 7 times because they could not believe the results. The precision held every single time. The surface finish is where the mystery really gets deep. Using special microscopes, the team found that the smoothest sections of the stone have a roughness of only a few micrometers. To give you an idea of how smooth that is, it is the same as modern stonework that has been polished with diamond tools and high-speed power equipment. To get this by hand, you would need to spend a lifetime grinding the stone with finer and finer sand, cleaning it, and checking it over and over. Petra has hundreds of square yards of this perfect finish. And get this, normal grinding leaves tiny scratches in the stone that go in random directions. The 2025 study found those scratches in some places, but in others, the stone was so smooth there were no marks at all. It was like the stone had been melted or cut with something that does not leave a physical trace. The mystery of the smooth stones. The analysis of the tool marks on the rock has left experts with more questions than answers. In some areas, you can see the expected marks from bronze chisels, but in other sections, the marks are long, straight lines that are far too perfect for a person to have made by hand. It looks more like the stone was cut with a guided machine. Dr. Morrison compared these marks to over 800 samples from other ancient sites like Egypt and Greece. Every culture has its own signature style of carving. You can usually tell who built something just by looking at how the chisel hit the rock. But Petra is different. It does not match any of the known patterns from that time. It is like finding a book written in a language that uses letters from all over the world but follows grammar rules that no one has ever seen before. Then there is the issue of how the workers even reached the top of the cliff. To carve from the top down, you need a massive amount of scaffolding to hold dozens of people and tons of equipment. You would expect to see hundreds of holes in the rock where the wooden beams were attached to hold up the platforms. But when the team looked for these holes, they were barely there. There are a few small spots, but nothing like what would be needed for a project of this size. Dr. Elena Vasquez, an engineer from Stanford, tried to model the scaffolding needed for the treasury. Her model showed that the mountain should be covered in deep anchor holes. Since those holes are missing, it means either they used a floating support system we do not understand, or the evidence somehow vanished, while the tiny microscopic details of the carving survived. Neither of those options makes any sense. The more we look at the engineering of the Nabateans, the more we see that they were masters of precision in every way. The city of Petra has a water system that is just as advanced as the buildings. They built channels and pipes that keep a very specific slope over long distances. If the slope is off by even a little bit, the water either stops moving or it flows so fast that it breaks the pipes. These systems were built 1,640 feet long, and they still work after 2,000 years. This proves that the people living there understood high-level engineering and math. But the big question is how they turned that math into reality without the right tools. There is a huge gap between knowing the math and being able to carve a mountain with a piece of bronze. The measurement problem is something that keeps architects up at night. To keep everything symmetrical across a 40-meter face, you need a way to check your work constantly. But how do you do that when you are hanging from a rope or a tiny wooden platform? Any tiny mistake you make in the first month will grow into a huge disaster by the time you reach the bottom. You cannot go back and fix it. The team thought maybe they used giant templates or ropes to measure, but even that would be hard to keep accurate in the wind and heat of the desert. The sandstone also changes hardness as you cut into it. Some parts are soft, while others have hard mineral bands that fight against your tools. To keep a smooth finish across all those different types of rock takes a level of skill that usually takes generations to master. Ancient knowledge lost to time. The most disturbing discovery made by Dr. Chen's team was the pattern of how the city was built. In almost every other civilization, you can see the people getting better at their jobs. The early buildings are rough and the later ones are perfect. But at Petra, it is the exact opposite. The very oldest structures, like the treasury, are the ones that show the highest level of skill and precision. The facades built 100 years later are still good, but they are noticeably less accurate. And the ones built after that are even rougher and simpler. This is backwards. It is like the people who founded the city had access to incredible technology or knowledge, and then over time that knowledge was lost or forgotten. This led the team to think about the lost knowledge theory. Maybe the Nabateans had a secret way of working with stone that they only told a few people. If those people died or left the city, the secret would be gone forever. This would explain why the early work is so much better. But normally, secret trade skills are built up over a long time. You do not just start with perfection. It is almost as if they inherited the methods from an older, unknown group of people. Dr. Chen said that this is not how any type of knowledge works unless you did not develop it yourself. The idea that someone else was there before the Nabateans, or that they were given this knowledge from elsewhere, is a very controversial thought that many people do not want to talk about. The unfinished buildings in Petra give us another big clue. There are several tombs that were abandoned before they were done. In one of them, the columns were just started. Dr. Vasquez noticed that even the rough cuts on this unfinished tomb were more accurate than the finished work on newer tombs nearby. This proves that it was not just about how much time they spent polishing. The actual carving skill was higher at the start. It is like finding a rough sketch by a master artist that is better than a finished painting by a student. The team looked at 23 different sites and the pattern held up every single time. The older the work, the better the engineering. Could there be an even older city hidden beneath the sands of Jordan that holds the real secrets of Petra? Tell me what you think in the comments because I want to hear your theories. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the impossible engineering of the past, make sure to like and subscribe for more. We are going to keep looking for the truth behind the world's most mysterious places.